created heaven and earth. Well, wasn't that the beginning?
No. The beginning of the thing.
I can remember it was about 1948. I would have been about 5 years old. Dad had a cabin in Lewiston, Michigan. My dad, your grandfather.
Yeah,
Great
great-grandpa.
And every time he had any time off, we'd go over there. And we had a fire pit, a big fire pit. Probably the size of, as far as from here to the trees over there was the fire pit. Because we'd take jack pine stumps 4 or 5 feet across and put them in there and burn them at night.
Yeah.
And out about as far as from here to the airplanes over there, 150 feet, 200 feet from the south of the cabin, we had a salt lick.
Yeah.
And we'd sit at the table inside the cabin in the evening if we weren't out by the fire pit, and we'd have 150 to 200 deer come into the salt lick
Okay.
almost every night, except for certain nights. You just, the only way I can describe it is you would get a feeling that something didn't feel right.
Yeah. Like
And
something's weird.
Dad wouldn't let us go outside and play, and there was no deer showed up.
Strange.
And this happened, well, we'd be outside at the fire pit, have a nice fire going and everything, and just about dark, Dad would make us all go back into the cabin. There were some nights he'd make us all, some nights it never bothered, we'd be out there till midnight.
Yeah.
Other nights he'd make us go back into the cabin by 9 o'clock. And you could feel something there. And every once in a while you'd see eyes. But eyes aren't supposed to be, well, 2 foot above Kyle's head. And that's up to quite a ways. We'd sit around there and eat. We'd never, in the daytime, hell, we wander all over the countryside there. We'd run around for miles. And the only time we ever seen or heard anything was at night. But then my grandfather died in January of 1953. And after that, we never saw or heard anything of him. And it was just, nobody talked about it. And I was talking to Dad about it one time just before we came up here. And he said he knew they were there. That was why we were going inside all the time.
Oh.
He wasn't worried about them bothering us or hurting us, but he says, just, why take the chance? I mean, you take something that's 8, 9 foot tall, can do a lot of damage. Yeah, well, I was outside in 1989. It was somewhere in Oregon, and a bunch of pines and all that other stuff. And I was going down through there, and all of a sudden there was some elk came out onto the road, and they stopped. I mean, they was a ways ahead of me, and they stopped and looked at me, and all of a sudden they took off like a shot. And as I went by, I caught something standing alongside the tree. A tree. I mean, hell, the trees down there are that big around or bigger. And there was something standing alongside the tree that, with me standing on the step of the truck, and it was a cab over, so the step was about 3 foot off the ground, I wouldn't have been able to reach the top of its head.
Oh. How tall do you think it's tall? How tall? do you
Yeah, I
think-
would say 10 foot. But that's, other than that, up here, I've heard them talk about them being here, but I've never seen any indication, so I don't know.
Hmm.
But Dad and Gramps both know they were there, and for some reason, when Gramps died, they just disappeared.
Maybe because they were.
Maybe he knew more about them than we thought he did, because I mean, the last couple of years of his life, he wasn't in that great a shape. But who knows? Hell, might go back there now, and they may be back again. Who knows? But they've seen them. Probably be, I'm not sure, between 50 and 75 miles southeast of the cabin. They got a picture of one carrying a baby across the creek. There was a picture on the whether it was YouTube or Facebook, I'm not sure.
Hmm.
But it wasn't something that had been played with. It was an actual picture of something bigger than a human being crossing the creek carrying a baby or a young one.
Yeah.
So I think they're there. Your grandmother thinks I'm nuts, but I mean, I think they're there.
Mm.
And that's what I got to say about that.